It was a quiet Sunday evening. The house felt empty and still. Daniel was alone at home because his parents had gone to visit a relative in another city. Rain was falling softly outside, tapping against the windows. Daniel was bored and decided to clean the attic. He had not gone up there in many years. The attic was full of old boxes, dusty furniture, and memories no one talked about anymore. He turned on the small yellow light and slowly walked inside. The air smelled old, like forgotten time. Daniel began opening boxes one by one. He found his old school drawings, broken toys, and photo albums from his childhood. He smiled when he saw a picture of himself riding a bicycle for the first time. He missed those simple days. Then, in the corner of the attic, he noticed a small black box. It was different from the others. It looked carefully placed, almost hidden. There was dust on top of it, but not as much as the other boxes. It felt like someone had touched it not too long ago. Daniel felt curious. He walked toward it and slowly opened the lid. Inside, there was only one thing: an old videotape. The tape had a white label on it. On the label, in his father's handwriting, were the words, "Wedding Day, do not open." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. Wedding Day. He smiled at first, thinking it must be his parents' wedding video. He had never seen their wedding before. They never talked much about it. Maybe this was a special memory his father wanted to keep safe. But then he looked closer at the words again. Do not open. Why would his father write that? It was just a wedding video. What could be so secret about it? Daniel felt something strange inside him, a mix of curiosity and fear. He knew he should respect his father's warning, but at the same time, he felt like he needed to know what was inside. He carried the tape downstairs carefully. The house felt even quieter now. The rain outside became heavier. The sky was dark gray. Daniel found the old video player in the living room cabinet. His hands were shaking a little as he connected the wires to the television. He sat on the couch and stared at the tape for a few seconds. Maybe he should wait. Maybe he should ask his father first. But the words "do not open" were now burning in his mind. He took a deep breath and pressed play. The screen flickered for a moment. Then soft wedding music began to play. The video quality was old and slightly blurry. Guests were sitting on white chairs decorated with flowers. There was laughter and smiling faces. Daniel leaned forward. He saw his father standing at the front, wearing a black suit. He looked young, much younger than Daniel had ever seen him. He looked nervous but happy. Daniel smiled. It was strange seeing his father like that. Then the music became louder. Everyone stood up. The bride began walking down the aisle. Daniel's smile slowly disappeared. He stared at the screen. His eyes widened. His heart began to beat faster. The woman walking toward his father was not his mother. It was someone else. A young woman with long dark hair and a bright white dress. She was beautiful and smiling with tears in her eyes. She looked deeply in love. Daniel felt cold. He moved closer to the television as if he had seen something impossible. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe this was someone else's wedding. But no, it was his father standing there. There was no doubt. The camera zoomed in on their faces. The priest asked them to exchange vows. The woman held his father's hands, and his father looked at her the way he never looked at anyone else. Daniel's breathing became heavy. His mind was full of questions. Who was she? Why had he never seen her before? Why had his father hidden this tape? And most important of all, if this was his father's wedding, then who was his mother? The rain outside thundered loudly. Daniel felt like the world around him had suddenly changed. Everything he thought he knew about his family now felt uncertain. The video continued playing. The bride and groom kissed. Everyone clapped and cheered. It looked real. It looked official. This was not a joke or a mistake. This was a true wedding. Daniel pressed pause. His hands were shaking. He felt like the floor beneath him was not steady anymore. For 20 years, he believed his parents had only one love story. But now another story had appeared. A story no one ever told him. And the biggest question echoed in his mind. If that woman was his father's bride, then what happened to her? And why did no one ever speak her name? Daniel sat alone in the silent living room, staring at the frozen image on the screen. He knew one thing for sure. After tonight, nothing would ever feel the same again. Daniel did not sleep that night. The paused image of the unknown bride stayed in his mind like a shadow. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her smiling face walking toward his father. Felt wrong, felt impossible, but it was real. At 3 in the morning, he got up from his bed and went back to the living room. The house was dark and silent. Only the small red light from the television was glowing in the corner. He stood there for a moment, staring at the black screen. Then he pressed play again. This time he watched more carefully. He noticed small details he had missed before. The wedding decorations were simple but beautiful. White roses were everywhere. There was a banner behind them with a date written clearly. Daniel's heart started racing when he read it. The date was 2 years before his parents' wedding anniversary. That meant this marriage happened before his mother. His father had been married before. But why did no one ever tell him? The video moved to the reception. Guests were laughing and dancing. Daniel tried to recognize faces in the crowd. Most of them were strangers. But then he froze again. He saw someone familiar. It was his grandmother, his father's mother. She was smiling and hugging the bride. She looked happy. She looked proud. Daniel felt confused. If his grandmother knew, then this was not a secret from everyone. This was a secret only from him. Why hide it from your own son? The video continued. His father was giving a short speech. Daniel turned up the volume. His father's young voice filled the room. I promise to love you every day of my life, his father said in the video. I promise there will never be anyone else. Daniel's stomach tightened. Never be anyone else. But there was someone else later. There was his mother. Was his father lying back then? Or was he lying now? Daniel paused the video again. His hands felt cold. He began thinking about his childhood. His parents rarely talked about the past. There were no wedding photos in the house. No framed pictures of their ceremony. Whenever Daniel asked, his mother would smile and change the topic. He never thought much about it before. But now every small memory felt important. Every silence felt heavy. Daniel stood up and walked slowly to his parents' bedroom. He knew he should not go inside without permission, but something inside him pushed him forward. He opened the closet carefully. The smell of his father's cologne filled the air. He searched through old drawers. At first, he found nothing unusual, just documents, old bills, and family photos. Then, in the bottom drawer under a pile of old papers, he found a small envelope. It was yellow and old. On the front, there was a name written in soft handwriting. Clara. Daniel had never heard that name before. He slowly opened the envelope. Inside, there was a single photograph. It was the same woman from the wedding video. She was standing beside his father near a lake. They looked young and deeply in love. On the back of the photo, there was a short sentence written by his father. To my forever love. Daniel felt like the air had left his lungs. Forever love. Then what was his mother? A replacement? A second choice? Or something else? His mind was full of silent questions. Questions that had no answers yet. He sat on the edge of the bed holding the photo. The woman's eyes looked kind and gentle. She did not look like someone who disappeared without reason. Something must have happened. Something serious. Because his father was not the type of man to simply forget someone he called forever. Suddenly, Daniel heard the sound of a car outside. His heart jumped. His parents were back. The moment he had feared was here. He quickly placed the photo back inside the envelope. But this time, he did not hide it under the papers. He kept it in his hand. His chest felt tight. His thoughts were loud. He could not pretend he had not seen the video. He could not pretend everything was normal anymore. The front door opened. He heard his mother's soft voice and his father's footsteps. They sounded happy, peaceful, unaware that their son's world had just changed forever. Daniel walked slowly toward the living room. The videotape was still inside the player. The television screen was black, but it felt like it was screaming the truth. His father stepped inside and saw Daniel standing there. For a second, their eyes met. Daniel wondered if his father could see the questions burning inside him. The silent questions that were about to break the silence of 20 years. And in that heavy moment, Daniel realized one thing. Some secrets do not stay buried forever. Some truths wait patiently for the right night to rise. And tonight was that night. The room felt smaller than usual. Daniel stood near the television. His father stopped walking when he noticed the old video player was connected. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. His mother was in the kitchen putting down her purse, unaware of the storm about to begin. His father looked at the tape inside the player. His face slowly lost color. "Where did you get that?" his father asked quietly. His voice was not angry. It was afraid. Daniel felt a strange mix of fear and courage. "I found it in the attic," Daniel said. There was a long silence. His father closed his eyes for a moment, as if he had been waiting for this day for many years. "You were not supposed to see that," his father whispered. Daniel felt hurt by those words. "Why?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Why was I not supposed to see my own father's wedding?" His father looked at him deeply. Because it was not the wedding Daniel believed. Because it was a chapter that had been locked away. His mother slowly walked into the living room. She sensed something was wrong. She saw Daniel's red eyes. She saw the old tape. She understood immediately. Her expression changed. Daniel looked at her. "Mom," he said softly. "Who is she?" The question felt heavy in the air. His father walked toward the couch and sat down slowly. He looked tired suddenly. Not tired from the day, but tired from carrying something for too long. "She was my first wife," his father said quietly. The words hit Daniel like cold water. First wife. The words sounded strange, like something from another life. Daniel felt his hands tremble. "You were married before?" he asked. His father nodded slowly. "Yes." His mother remained silent. She did not look surprised. She did not look angry. She looked sad. Daniel noticed that detail. Confused him even more. "How could you hide this from me?" Daniel's voice grew louder. "For 20 years, you never told me." His father looked at the floor. "It was not about hiding it from you," he said softly. "It was about surviving it." Daniel did not understand. Surviving what? A marriage? A divorce? A mistake? What happened to her? Daniel asked. This time his voice was softer. His father's hands began to shake slightly. "She did not leave," he said. "She did not choose to go." Daniel felt a sudden chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" His father looked up at him. There were tears in his eyes. "She got sick," he said slowly. "Very sick." The room became completely silent. Even the ticking clock on the wall felt louder. Daniel's anger started mixing with confusion. "How sick?" His father swallowed hard. "It was cancer," he said. "She was only 26. Daniel felt like the air had been pulled from the room. The image of the smiling bride on the screen flashed in his mind. She looked so full of life, so happy. How could someone so alive just disappear? "I promised her forever," his father continued, "and I believed I would give her forever." His voice broke. But forever lasted 1 year. Daniel's mother slowly sat beside his father and gently held his hand. That small movement shocked Daniel. There was no jealousy in her eyes, only understanding. "I met your mother 2 years after she passed," his father said. "I was not looking for love. I was trying to learn how to breathe again." Daniel felt his anger weakening, but his questions were still strong. "Why didn't you tell me?" His father wiped his eyes. "Because I wanted you to see your mother as the only love story in this house. I did not want you to think she was second." Daniel looked at his mother. She smiled gently. "I knew everything before we married," she said calmly. "I saw the photos, I heard the stories. I chose him anyway." Daniel felt overwhelmed. All this time, he thought he had discovered betrayal. But what he found was grief. What he thought was a lie was actually pain that had never healed completely. Still, something inside him hurt. "You should have trusted me with the truth," Daniel said softly. His father nodded. "You are right. I was afraid. I thought if I spoke about her, I would lose your mother too." Daniel realized something important in that moment. His father was not a hero in this story. He was a human being, a man who once loved deeply, lost deeply, and then loved again. The television screen was still black behind them, but it no longer felt like a threat. It felt like a memory waiting to be understood. Daniel took a deep breath. He was not sure how to feel. Angry, sad, confused, or maybe all three at once. But one thing was clear. The truth had finally come out, and there was no turning back now. Some doors, once opened, never close again. And tonight, their family had stepped into a story that was buried for 20 years. The house felt different after the truth came out. It was still the same living room, the same walls, the same furniture, but the air felt heavier. Daniel sat quietly across from his parents. He had so many questions, but now his anger was mixed with something else. Curiosity, pain, and a strange sympathy for a woman he had never met. His father stared at his hands for a long time before speaking again. "She was my best friend before she became my wife," he said softly. "Her name was Clara." The name sounded gentle. It did not sound like a secret anymore. It sounded like a memory that had been waiting to breathe. Daniel tried to imagine his father young, in love, full of dreams. It was difficult. He had only known his father as serious and calm, never as a young man with a wild heart. "We met in college," his father continued. "She used to sit in the front row and argue with the professor." A small smile appeared on his father's face. She was fearless. Daniel noticed something in his father's eyes, a light that had not been there before. It was not romantic. It was nostalgic, like someone remembering a sunrise they once saw. "We were poor," his father said. "We did not have much money, but we had plans." They dreamed of traveling, of buying a small house near the sea, of having children one day. Daniel swallowed quietly. Those dreams sounded familiar, very similar to the life his father later built with his mother. "After graduation, we got married," his father said. "It was simple, but it was perfect." Daniel remembered the wedding video, the white roses, the bright smile. It did look perfect. "What happened after that?" Daniel asked gently. His father's smile slowly faded. "At first, everything was normal," he said. "She started feeling tired all the time. We thought it was stress. But then she fainted one day." Daniel felt his chest tighten. His father continued slowly. "Doctors ran tests, and then they gave us news that changed everything." His father's voice became weaker. "It was a rare form of cancer." Daniel looked down at the floor. He did not know what to say. He imagined Clara hearing that news, just 1 year after promising forever. His father looked far away. "As soon as we heard it, our dreams disappeared. There were no more travel plans, no house near the sea, only hospital visits, only medicine, only hope that maybe the doctors were wrong." Daniel noticed his mother quietly wiping tears from her eyes. Even though she had heard the story before, still hurt, she tried to stay strong, his father said. "She would smile even when she was in pain. She would tell me not to worry." Daniel felt something inside him breaking slowly. He had imagined betrayal, but what he found was tragedy. Did she know she was going to? Daniel stopped. He could not finish the sentence. His father nodded slowly. "Near the end, yes." There was a long silence. "She made me promise something," his father said quietly. Daniel looked up. "What?" "She made me promise that if I ever found love again, I would not push it away. Daniel's eyes widened. She did not want me to stay alone. She said love is not something you bury with a person. His father's voice broke again. She made me promise I would live. Daniel felt tears forming in his own eyes. He imagined Clara lying in a hospital bed, weak but still thinking about the man she loved. It did not feel like a story about betrayal anymore. It felt like a story about sacrifice. She passed away 1 year after our wedding, his father said softly. 1 year and 3 days. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. He imagined the wedding vows again. Forever had lasted only 1 year. How did you survive that? Daniel asked. His father let out a slow breath. I did not survive it, he said honestly. For a long time, I was just existing. I avoided people. I avoided memories. I even avoided happiness. Daniel realized something important in that moment. The reason his father had hidden the tape was not shame. It was pain. Deep pain that never fully disappeared. I kept the video because I did not want to forget her, his father said. But I hid it because I did not know how to explain it. Daniel slowly nodded. The puzzle pieces were coming together. His father had not replaced Clara with his mother. He had kept a promise made in a hospital room filled with fear and love. His mother finally spoke softly. When I met your father, he was still carrying that pain. I did not compete with her. I respected her. Daniel looked at both of them. For the first time, he saw not just parents, but two adults who had chosen each other after surviving different storms. Clara was not a threat. She was a chapter, a painful, beautiful chapter that shaped the man who later became his father. Daniel took a deep breath. He fell. After hearing the full story about Clara, the house became quiet again. But this silence felt different. It was not filled with anger anymore. It was filled with thoughts. Daniel went to his room slowly. He needed space to breathe. Everything he believed about his father had changed in just one night. He sat on his bed and stared at the wall. He tried to imagine losing someone he loved so deeply. He tried to imagine standing at a hospital bed, knowing forever was ending too soon. The idea felt too heavy for his heart. For the first time, Daniel felt something he had never felt before. He felt sorry for his father. Not angry, not betrayed, just sorry. Downstairs, his father remained on the couch. The memories had been locked away for many years, and now they were open again. His mother sat beside him quietly. She gently held his hand, not to comfort him from the past, but to remind him he was not alone in the present. Daniel walked back downstairs after some time. He found his father still sitting there, staring at nothing. Dad, Daniel said softly. His father looked up. There was tiredness in his eyes, but also relief, as if carrying the truth had finally become lighter. I was angry at you, Daniel admitted honestly. I thought you lied to us. His father nodded slowly. I understand, he said. I would feel the same. Daniel hesitated for a moment. Why did you keep the video if it hurt so much? His father looked at the television. Because pain is still part of love, he answered quietly. If I erased her completely, it would feel like she never existed. Daniel never thought about it that way. He had always believed people move on by forgetting, but now he realized maybe real moving on meant remembering without breaking. There is something else, his father said suddenly. Daniel looked up again. His father stood up slowly and walked toward the bookshelf. From behind a stack of old books, he pulled out a small wooden box. Daniel's heart beat faster. Inside the box were letters, old letters tied together with a thin ribbon. They are from Clara, his father said softly. She wrote them during her treatment. Daniel carefully picked up one letter. The paper was slightly yellow. The handwriting was neat but shaky. Can I read one? Daniel asked. His father nodded. Daniel opened the first letter gently. The words were simple, but powerful. She wrote about small things, about how she missed walking in the park, how she wished to see the ocean one more time, how she was not afraid of dying, but afraid of leaving him alone. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. At the end of one letter, Clara had written something that made Daniel stop breathing for a second. She wrote, "If one day you find someone who makes you smile again, promise me you will not feel guilty for loving her." Daniel looked up at his father slowly. She really said that? His father nodded, tears rolling down his face. She did not want me to stay stuck in sadness. She wanted me to live fully. Daniel felt something shift inside his heart completely. All this time he thought his father had hidden a betrayal, but what he had hidden was pain, and maybe even protection. Protection from reopening wounds that never fully healed. His mother walked closer and placed her hand on Daniel's shoulder. "When I first read those letters years ago, I cried too," she said softly. "But I also understood something important. Love does not divide. It grows." Daniel realized something beautiful and painful at the same time. His existence was not built on replacing someone. It was built on healing. If Clara had not made his father promise to love again, maybe his father would have stayed alone forever. Maybe Daniel would never have been born. That thought hit him deeply. He felt connected to a woman he never met, a woman who unknowingly made his life possible. "Do you still think about her?" Daniel asked quietly. His father smiled softly through tears. "Every year on her birthday," he admitted, "I visit the lake where we took that photo." Daniel's heart softened even more. That was not betrayal. That was remembrance. That was respect. For the first time, Daniel felt proud of his father's strength. It takes courage to love again after losing everything. It takes even more courage to carry that memory without letting it destroy your future. Daniel stepped forward and hugged his father tightly. It was not a small hug. It was a hug filled with understanding. A hug that said, "I see you now." His father held him back firmly, and in that moment, something invisible healed between them. Secrets can break families, but truth, even painful truth, can rebuild them stronger. Daniel looked at the letters again. They were no longer symbols of confusion. They were symbols of love that continued in a different form. He realized something simple but powerful. That night, after the long conversation with his father, Daniel could not stop thinking about one person. His mother. She had been quiet through most of it. She had not shown jealousy. She had not shown anger. She had shown something else. Strength. The next morning, Daniel woke up early. The house was calm. Sunlight came softly through the curtains. He walked to the kitchen and found his mother sitting alone at the table. She was holding a cup of tea but was not drinking it. She looked peaceful, but her eyes looked thoughtful. "Mom," Daniel said gently. She looked up and smiled softly. "Good morning," she replied. Daniel sat across from her. There was something he needed to understand. "Why did you never tell me?" he asked carefully. His mother did not look surprised. She seemed like she had been waiting for this question. She placed her cup down slowly. "Because it was not my story to tell," she said calmly. Daniel frowned slightly. "But you knew everything." "Yes," she nodded. "I knew from the beginning." Daniel felt confused again. "How could you accept that?" he asked. "How could you marry a man who still loved someone else?" His mother's expression did not change. She did not look hurt by the question. Instead, she looked wise. "Your father did not still love her in that way," she explained gently. "He loved her memory. That is different." Daniel stayed silent, listening closely. "When I met your father," she continued, "he was quiet, serious, and distant. There was sadness inside him, but there was also kindness. I saw how deeply he had loved before, and that did not scare me. It showed me how deeply he could love again." Daniel had never thought about love that way. Most people feel jealous of the past, but his mother had seen something beautiful in it. "Were you never afraid?" Daniel asked softly. "Afraid that you were second?" His mother smiled faintly. "No," she answered honestly. Because love is not a competition. I was not replacing anyone. I was building something new. Daniel felt something warm in his chest. His mother continued speaking calmly. Your father told me about Clara on our third date. He did not hide her from me. He showed me her photos. He even showed me the wedding video. Daniel blinked in surprise. You saw it? Yes. She nodded. I watched it alone one evening. And I cried. Daniel's heart softened. Why did you cry? Because I saw how happy he once was, she said. And I knew that happiness had been taken from him. Daniel looked down at the table. His mother's voice became softer. But I also saw something else. I saw a man who did not stop loving just because he lost someone. And I realized I wanted to stand beside that kind of man. Daniel never saw his father that way before. To him, his father was strict, calm, sometimes distant. But now he saw layers he had never noticed. Did you ever feel insecure? Daniel asked honestly. His mother laughed softly. Of course I did, she admitted. I am human. There were moments I wondered if he compared us. But then I understood something important. He did not love me because I was different from her. He loved me because I was me. Daniel felt his eyes become heavy with emotion. His mother reached across the table and gently held his hand. Listen to me carefully, she said softly. Your father's past did not reduce his love for me. It prepared him to love better. Daniel felt tears building in his eyes. His mother continued, when you love someone deeply and lose them, you learn what truly matters. You stop wasting time. You stop taking moments for granted. When he married me, he loved with more patience, more understanding, more gratitude. Daniel realized something powerful. Clara's love had shaped his father, but his mother's love had healed him. They were not enemies in a story. They were two chapters of growth. Why did you never tell me about her? Daniel asked one more time. His mother looked at him gently. Because you deserved a childhood without confusion, she said. I did not want you to grow up thinking your family was built on loss. I wanted you to grow up thinking it was built on love. Daniel finally understood. The silence was not meant to hide betrayal. It was meant to protect innocence. Suddenly, something clicked in his mind. If Clara asked Dad to love again, Daniel said slowly, and you accepted his past, then I am here because of both of you. His mother smiled warmly. Yes, she whispered. You are here because love chose to continue. Daniel felt overwhelmed, not with sadness, but with gratitude. He stood up and hugged his mother tightly. It was not just a normal hug. It was a hug filled with respect. He realized his mother was stronger than he ever knew. Loving someone with a past takes courage, and she had done it without fear.